Keon. I wanted to leave you some feedback on Essay 2. I do think that there is some good context in this paper. I also think you have some good descriptive writing. I do think you're a little shy on the actual analysis and also your insights. And as you can see, you're short on the page requirement. You have just under 2 pages when really this paper should have run around 3 to 4. But I do see some areas where you can expand. So I'd like to spend some time talking with you about that today. Your appendix looks pretty good. Keep the title the same font size as the rest of your draft. MLA is a really plain style. So here, like on your works cited page, I think it looks like it's the same size. You want to do the same thing with the appendix. So let's go to your paper. So you start with this hard data to help illustrate the idea that school shootings are a current concern, and then you present a seemingly opposing idea, which made me really confused up until I got to the end of the sentence. So I recommend actually kind of flip-flopping these ideas around, bringing in the idea that COVID is the reason why school shootings have decreased, because it reads like you were contradicting yourself up until this point. So I think if you reworked this sentence, you could make it fit what you're trying to do more clearly. I do think that your pacing gets a little quick in here. So you present a general idea about the image, but what we don't have is a thesis statement, right? So remember that you need a clear stance on the image, and you need to present that in the thesis. And so for a visual analysis thesis, what you want to identify are the visual techniques that you will use to make sense of the image. And I think one way to do this, and what your paper seems to focus on, is the idea of a very familiar scene, right, that has become defamiliarized. Meaning, all parents have gone back to school shopping with their kids, and all kids have probably experienced either the excitement of back to school shopping or the absolute drudgery and dread of it. So it's a very common scene, a very common occurrence. But what this artist has done is taken that very common yearly rite of passage, I suppose, right? You're moving from the freedom and joy of summer into the school year, where you have to get a little bit more serious, and is making a political point about gun control and school shootings, right? So I think the idea of maybe taking the familiar and making it unfamiliar in order to make a point, right? You just need another idea here that really helps capture what you're trying to do in this piece. It looks like you've combined the artist's last name and the publication. If you don't know the artist's full name, I would say the political cartoon published in the New York Daily, right? Because this is kind of confusing in here, because the cartoon is not the author's last name in the publication. It's by the author and it's published in the publication. So clarify your ideas there. I still think that your description in this area is strong. But I feel like your analysis, you miss an opportunity to get into analysis here. So the image illustrates how a mother is about to send her child back to school, but is afraid of all the violence that is taking place in schools around the world. How do you know that? And how is that expressed in the image? Right? So you need to return and talk about the image. And I like the fact that you're pointing out the ridiculousness of the situation, but I think that you need to identify clearly how you know she's afraid. And then another interesting idea to perhaps expand on is does the child seem to be afraid? He really doesn't. He seems to be burdened and confused. So maybe that's one way that you can expand on this as well. What are the different reactions of children to this situation, and how does this child seem to be reacting? You say that what captures the audience's attention is the dialogue bubble and the boy that's being covered head to toe. Here's another place where you need to expand. Excuse me. Why does that catch the reader's attention? Is it because of color? Is it because of placement? Is it because of composition? Right. This is where you need to touch on your visual techniques to more clearly draw that out. I think that it's a fair claim to make here about audience. However, I think that this is a good idea for you to end on. But I feel like this idea is underdeveloped. So this is another place where you might expand. So what I would do is treat this idea as a separate paragraph and expand on that. So if no child should feel threatened or afraid in their learning environment, what can be done? What should be done? What is not being done? And how does that image help remind the viewer that we cannot allow this to go on anymore, right? What point is this image trying to make about the situation? So here's another place where you could definitely expand at the paragraph level, and it would allow you to develop a really good final insight on the image. I'm also going to send you a link to OWL at Purdue because this is not cited correctly. You don't just include the URL, you have to create a full citation. And I know that we have not talked about that in class yet, but if you're going to include outside sources, you need to cite them correctly. So I will send you a link to OWL at Purdue that shows you how to cite electronic sources. So I think that this paper could get there. It does need another round of revision. But I do think with another round of revision, I know that you could bring this grade up. So, Keon, I really encourage you to do so. And let me know if you have any questions. Okay, thanks.